The US government just furloughed half of the IRS. Probably a good thing. The dollar's value is down 25% in just 2 years. Definitely not a good thing. And Bitcoin is holding strong at 123,000. Great for hodlers. The question is, though, how much longer can the system hold before Bitcoin breaks free and leads us to the next global reset? You see, people laughed when we said Bitcoin would outperform fiat. But when the government prints $4 trillion out of thin air and inflation silently robs every dollar you earn and save, who's laughing now? What's up, family? It's Coach Masi, and you're locked in to the Daily Hodl. If you love Bitcoin and macro news, financial news, and everything else, I'm about to give you everything that cuts through the noise. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, then share this with anyone who loves Bitcoin news and really needs help financially, needs to wake up. And remember, this show is for educational purposes only, not financial advice, but there's some great stuff that I think you can really take away. So let's start with today's breaking headline. The IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, has initiated furloughs, affecting roughly 50% of the workforce as federal funding lapses. That's right, half of the IRS is offline, and it's sending a powerful signal about the state of the federal government. This action comes amid yet another budget impasse in Washington. With the government running on temporary funding extensions and no clear long-term solution, agencies are forced to scale back operations. The IRS is one of the hardest hit. Here's what that means for everyday Americans like yourself and investors. You see, refunds and tax processing could be delayed for weeks, even months now. Audits and enforcement may slow dramatically. And most importantly, it exposes stress in the federal system that usually goes unnoticed. When the agency responsible for collecting the nation's revenue has to send half of its staff home, that is not a sign of fiscal strength. It's a warning light flashing for anyone paying attention. In a financial system burdened with mounting debt, endless spending, and monetary expansion, investors naturally start looking for stability and reliability. And that's where Bitcoin comes in. You see, Bitcoin doesn't furlough. It doesn't rely on Congress, budgets, or bureaucrats to function. It operates 24/7, 365, governed by code, not politics. And I'm an AP World History teacher. For a growing number of people, Bitcoin is becoming the ultimate, flight to safety asset, a hedge against fragility of traditional systems, a way to preserve your wealth when fiat currencies are under pressure. In short, while the IRS struggles to keep the lights on, Bitcoin keeps running, proving why it's more than just digital money. It's sound money for a shaky world. Now let's focus on a key development inside the U.S. Treasury itself. The Senate has confirmed Jonathan McKernan as the new Undersecretary for Domestic Finance, replacing J. Nellie Liang. This is a pivotal role. It oversees U.S. banking, housing finance, and financial stability initiatives. In other words, it's the heartbeat of domestic economic policy. McKernan comes with a reputation for being a cautious yet pragmatic person. He understands market structure, systemic risk, and debt management. On paper, that sounds promising. But here's the hard truth. How much can any treasury actually, when the U.S. is drowning in debt, have an impact? When the dollar lost roughly 25% of its purchasing power in just 2 years. See, you can swap leaders and names at the top, but the system remains the same. Print, spend, borrow, repeat. And as long as that cycle continues, the dollar will continue to weaken. This is why traditional policy solutions are no longer enough. It's why investors are moving forward towards scarce, decentralized assets like Bitcoin, which cannot be inflated away. McKernan may steer policy, but he can't print confidence or stop the erosion of the value of the dollar. That's outside anyone's control. And it's exactly why understanding macro trends and hedging with Bitcoin has never been more critical. You see, let's get into the numbers precisely, okay? During the pandemic, the U.S. government printed over $4 trillion. That's more money created in just a few months than in the first 200 years of American history combined. Let that sink in for a second. $4 trillion created out of thin air, digitally added to the monetary supply. Notice I said digitally, right? Because it's whatever. Chasing the same limited amount of goods, services, and assets that we have on this planet. And what happened next? Inflation didn't just rise, it exploded. Groceries skyrocketed. Rent and home prices jumped to record highs. Gas, energy, utilities, everything essential became more expensive. Meanwhile, most Americans' paychecks didn't move that much. That's not growth, that's theft. disguised as policy. Over the past 2 years, the US dollar has quietly lost 25% of its value. That means for every $100 that you had in savings 2 years ago, it's now just buys $75 worth. And yet, the printing continues, the borrowing continues, and the same leaders keep pretending that we can just spend our way out of this problem, out of this crisis. But here's the truth that history never hides. Every fiat currency that's ever existed has failed. Every single one. The Roman denarius, the German mark, the Venezuelan bolivar. Once governments start printing faster than they produce, confidence dies, and when confidence dies, the currency collapses. That's why Bitcoin was created. It wasn't designed to make you rich overnight. It was designed to protect you from this exact kind of monetary insanity we're dealing with. Bitcoin is the antidote to inflation. It's a system based on math, not politics. A fixed supply, not unlimited printing. While central banks dilute your dollars, Bitcoin preserves your value. That's why people across the world, smart money, institutional investors, and everyday savers are moving away from fiat and into hard assets because they see what's coming. The dollar is weakening. Confidence in government spending is fading. And as faith in paper money disappears, Bitcoin stands alone as the one asset you can truly trust. Not because of promises, but because of code. This isn't a conspiracy. It's reality. When you control your Bitcoin, you control your wealth. And that's something no government can print away. And I love America, but I'm just telling you, we have a monetary policy problem globally. So what do you do with this kind of environment? Well, where the dollar's losing its value, markets are uncertain, fear dominates every headline. You stay calm, you stay consistent, and you stick to a long-term plan, like dollar cost averaging. Dollar cost averaging, or DCA as people call it, is one of the simplest and most effective wealth building strategies ever created. It means investing a fixed amount into Bitcoin at regular intervals, weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, no matter what the price is doing. You buy when it's high, you buy when it's low, you buy when people are calling for a crash, and you buy when everyone's screaming to the moon. Because over time, DCA removes emotion from the process. It takes human fear and greed out of it, the two biggest wealth killers, and replaces them with discipline and conviction. And this is what I'm trying to show you. See, here's what most investors get wrong. They try to time the market. They wait for the perfect entry, or they panic when the price drops. I've done it before myself, but I've learned. But history shows that missing just a handful of Bitcoin days, of the best days, can lead to thousands of dollars lost in long-term gains. You see, the people who win are the ones who stay consistent through every cycle. If you'd been DCAing just $100 a week into Bitcoin over the past 5 years, through all the ups and downs, you'd be sitting on a massive return today, even after all the pullbacks. Why? Because consistency compounds. Every purchase, no matter how small, adds up. Every week you stay disciplined, your average cost basis improves. You're not gambling, you're building. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin. It rewards patience and punishes panic. It's the exact opposite of the fiat system, which punishes savers and rewards debt. Think about it. While the dollar loses value every year, Bitcoin's supply stays capped forever. There will never be more than 21 million coins. That scarcity is the foundation of its strength. So when you DCA, you're not just stacking sats, you're stacking sovereignty. You're taking back control from a system that's designed to keep you dependent on it. You're saying, I choose discipline over emotion. I choose time in the market over timing the market. I choose Bitcoin over broken money. That's the mindset that creates long-term financial freedom. Not hype, not luck, just faith, patience, and consistency. So to recap, the IRS is furloughing half its staff, showing how fragile our federal structure has become. A new Treasury leader is stepping in, but the debt and the dollar crisis are already in motion. The U.S. printed $4 trillion and effectively tanked its own currency during COVID. And while fiat bleeds value daily, Bitcoin continues to stand firm as the most transparent, decentralized, and hardest asset on earth. Now remember, this is not financial advice. It's for education and perspective only. So my question is simple. Are you going to sit on the sidelines, or are you going to learn how money really works? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. And trust me, I read every single one of them. And do you think the IRS furloughs and the dollar collapse are just short-term noise? or the beginning of a much bigger shift toward Bitcoin as global money? Let me know what you think below. I really want to know. No matter what, make sure you like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share this with someone who needs to understand what's really happening in the financial world. Well, that's your Daily Hodl. Stay sharp, stay disciplined, and as always, lead, pray, hodl. I'll see you in the next one.